there, and welcome to the Seven Figure Authorpreneur Podcast, where we empower authors with tools, resources, and inspiration to build prosperous book brands. I am your host, Octoria Robinson, and today we will be interviewing Jessica Edwards. OMG, guys, we are so excited to have Jessica Edwards with us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Oh my gosh, guys. I cannot wait to share her expertise with you. Today, we are going to be exploring the topic, how to grow your book brand using social media. And can I add my own little mojo? Without being stressed out. So,
right.
Jess, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your journey as a marketing expert?
Sure. And first, I want to say thank you for having me, Octoria. But I started my agency almost 3 years ago during the pandemic when I saw that businesses around me were starting to shut their doors. And a huge obstacle for a lot of those businesses was competing with all the big box retailers, online retailers. And I saw that the disparity was really, they didn't have an online presence. They didn't have the ability to do so quick enough or the resources. So it became my goal to help all the small and local businesses I could to help bring prosperity in the community once again. So I did everything I could to reach out to a lot of the local businesses, offer my services, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. What a great heart you have, and especially at a time when people were struggling and hurting the most and dealing with really unexpected challenges. Thank you so much for that. And again, we are very, very thankful that you're here to share even more of your knowledge and really niche it down to us as authors. Let's go a little deeper. So, what would you say is the purpose of social media for authors?
I think the biggest purpose is connecting with others. You know, that's the whole point of social media. But to get yourself out there, get noticed, and tell your story. A lot of people, they won't connect with you unless you actually tell a story, and that story connects with others.
So would you say that it's important for an author to have a social media presence?
I feel like it's crucial for an author or any business to have a social media presence because many people, it's a majority of people, can't remember the exact statistic, but somewhere over 60% of users find businesses and authors and different industries on social media before they use Google. So it's important to have a presence on there, even if it's a small presence, because at least you're listed. If you're not on there, it can seem like you just don't exist.
Guys, did you hear that? And I was a late adapter myself to social media because of my own internal fears and things that I'd heard and accepted as truth and got really scared about being in this whole virtual reality. Now, with that said, I'd love to just explore this next question. What is the number one myth about social media that authors should disregard?
It was hard for me to choose one myth, but I would probably say social media is free and easy. It's free to join, but it's not necessarily easy or free to have a good presence unless you have the skills necessary already. And really to obtain those skills, it costs time and resources and everything like that. So to really have a successful presence on social media, it's not as easy as what one would think. Like when you see all these people going viral over a silly video, well, to keep the virality, to keep their notice, to keep their presence, to keep everything going on if they do get viral, it takes work. It's not just one and done. It's always a consistent battle. You always have to keep working and keep pushing yourself out there in some way and at a consistent basis. You can't just expect to go viral once and then be done.
Yeah, there's a momentum that must be maintained after going viral, and that's where the consistency and the commitment comes into play. I'm so thankful that you highlighted that because we just discussed that it's important. In fact, you said crucial for authors to maintain a social media presence, but we have to embrace that it's not free. And it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of intentionality, work, commitment, and consistency in order to really reach and stay engaged and connected to our ideal audience. Wow. My next question, Jessica, is how do I as an author, speaking on behalf of our listeners, select the best platform for my product or service? And if I could just add a little bit more to that, because you've got TikTok, you've got Facebook, Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, and probably others that I don't know to mention. And for many who are kind of new or just more of a casual social media type person, that can feel overwhelming. So, as an author,
Definitely.
how do we select the best platform for us?
Well, the short answer would be go where your audience is, right? But a lot of people don't know where that is. So to start, what I would do is research, your type of audience. If your audience is 30 to 50-year-old women, let's just say specifically, you can literally Google what social media platforms target this age group, or you can do things like that. But I always say go where your audience is. If you have very young audience members, you're going to want to focus on the platforms that target the youth, like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. And then TikTok does have a wide range of users, but the youth is a majority of their users, ages from 16 to 25 range. The user metrics are all available with Google if you're really wanting to be specific and only focus on the platforms that are going to yield you the best results. My number one recommendation to all my clients is just go to the main ones for sure: Facebook, Instagram, and then YouTube if you have video content, because those are the three main ones that have the largest amount of members. Instagram and Facebook are connected by the same owner. So if you post things on Facebook, you can cross-post them to Instagram, which makes it a lot easier for your authors to manage less content. But really, I would just go where your followers are. If you notice a large amount of followers in let's say you're targeting Christian people, not any demographic within that, then, you could see if there's any Christian-focused social media platforms, groups within those platforms. Like there's Christian groups on Facebook and things like that as well. So just doing a little bit of due diligence and research and figuring out kind of where your audience is going to yield you the best results when you spend the time and money that we're talking about building up your momentum in those platforms.
And when you say audience, can you just define that a little bit more? Because some of our listeners may not know who their audience is.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to be mentioning this later too, is the audience that you are focusing on is your who. Who is going to benefit the most from your story, from your book, from what message you have to put out there on your social media. Figuring out your who is going to be the number one thing that you do as an author anyway, because you need to make sure that the people who are going to receive your message are going to be more susceptible to it and really gain value from it. So if you're talking about, let's say, a bunch of things, I can't come up with an example, but let's say you're talking about something that's just not relevant to the target audience that you're speaking to on Facebook, then it would be a wasted effort for you to put out all of this content and then target audiences, let's say with your advertising, with your groups, with your social media choice that do not coincide. So figuring out the type of people, demographic, women or men or both, age, group, hobbies, interests, religion, political. You can really segment who you're speaking to in a broad sense and then in a micro sense, which is what I was talking about, really getting it down to, the category of, are they all Christian, or do they all like to, work on cars, or, do they love makeup, whatever it is. You can actually figure out those audiences and really target them using social media.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a great breakdown, Jessica. I appreciate you for sharing that. And guys, this is so true what she just said. Before embracing a following on social media, make sure you understand who you are wanting to engage with. Otherwise, you will feel swallowed up in the world of social media. The next thing I'd like to address is, okay, let's say we've selected the platform or platforms that our audience or followers, they're there. How do we choose a username as an author? Is it okay to use our personal one, or should we have a separate one?
I really think it's important to have a separate one if you are planning on taking this book and creating an entire platform based on the book, especially if you are, let's say, you have your personal account that you deal with family and friends, and then you create this professional account where you can just speak about your message. You can do more advertising, promotions, things like that, so that you don't alienate your friends and family, because Facebook and all these other social media, they're really designed for socialization and community. So your friends on your regular social media profile do not want to be solicited to constantly. It's still very good to post things on there, just not as often. And then on your professional page, you'll want to really highlight, that's all you're going to be doing, is talking about you, your book, and everything that has to do with like your speaking engagements. So it's really important to have a separate one. To choose your username, my number one thing I tell people is keep the name consistent across all platforms. Whatever you have to do, try really hard to get the same username on every platform. And to do that, you can go to namecheck.com. It's NAMECHK.com. And you can look, it's like a search engine for usernames. You type in the ones that you're interested in, and it'll show you all the platforms where it is or isn't available. So you can try to pick one that'll work for every platform that you're interested in. The consistency is really important, because on your marketing, your media and everything, you can just use one handle. Mine is at Meticulous Jess LLC. It's the same across every single one. I think yours is DTB Pub, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes it really easy to keep stuff very consistent. The other tip that I have is try to use something very relevant to you, not anything fun and creative that's not relevant. It has to be very relevant. So your tagline that you really focus on, your book title, your name, those are all very relevant to what you're doing. So if you have, a client or an author that has a tagline they use constantly across all their books, and they have like 10 books and they use the same thing, the same tagline, that would be okay, because it's something that they're known for. Book title, series title, or their name in some fashion, last name, first name, last name, and then they can add a number or a period or an underscore if their first variation's unavailable. So again, that's namecheck.com, NAMECHK.com.
Such valuable information you just shared there. Now, I'm probably going to be speaking for about half our listeners. If I'm going to move out of my friend family zone, where I maybe have a couple hundred or even a couple thousand of friends / followers, to a zero start, how on earth in my professional social media platform do I get people to start following me?
Well, what I would recommend is to definitely let people know on your personal page where to follow you for, updates about your book, updates about your business, updates about your speaking engagements. And the people who are actually following you and actually valuable followers who really want to know about your book are going to listen and follow. And then, of course, there's the fact that you're not going to have every post that you post shown to every single person that's following you. It's impossible. So, a lot of your friends and family on Facebook or Instagram may not see your posts. So then that's when it's a really good idea to personally message every single person. Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm starting this, page just for my book, just for my speaking. So then that way I can not solicit to everybody. And I would love it if you follow me and support me in this new venture. And then you're creating a personal message to them as well. If they still don't follow you after all of that, then you don't really want them to follow you, because they're not really a good, valuable target audience member. They either aren't interested in the type of book that you're selling, or they're just not interested. So you really want to focus on quality over quantity. If you have 3,000 friends on Facebook and only 300 of them follow you on the other platform, well, that's 300 quality followers who actually are committed to seeing your content.
So what would you describe as a healthy expectation for growth in starting from ground up on your professional social media platform?
I would say on average, you can expect 10% of your current friends and followers to follow you over to your new one. possibly more, depending on how close knit your actual followers are, if they're all organic, if they're all true friends, or if they're just random followers. And then if you really get involved in groups on Facebook and networking in person, groups on other platforms like Alignable, LinkedIn, a whole bunch of different group capabilities, and you put yourself out there and you engage, you don't just sell and solicit, you engage with people, you answer questions, you put out value, you'll notice that your organic following definitely will gain momentum. So the more effort you put in, the more value that you bring, the more followers you will gain. And they will be, like I said, quality over quantity.
Once we're on our platform, we've got the username selected. We've had that 10% of our friend family group migrate. How do we find our audience beyond our warm network?
Definitely. I mentioned groups. That's a really big thing. A lot of people don't know about those. If you go onto a platform like Facebook, Alignable, Reddit, all these different platforms, and you create your branded username, everything, let's say you're starting fresh with no followers even, then what you do is you search for groups that are relevant, again, to your audience. Let's say you're speaking about marriage and relationships, and your book is about marriage and relationships. Then you might go, and it's a Christian book, so you might go to Christian counseling groups or marriage, Christian married groups where you find other married Christian single or couples. You might go to church groups, whole bunch of groups. All you do is search in the search bar on Facebook, and there's a filter button with groups, and you find all these groups, you join them, you answer their questions, and then when you get into the group, you can scan recent conversations, add your value, add your information, talk to people. You just keep doing that, and I promise you this is one of the best ways to find people that you would never normally see, outside of your geographical region even, because these people in these groups can be from anywhere. Join your neighborhood group, there's probably a buy swap group. There's all these local groups too that you can join. Groups are one of the most powerful ways to meet people that you would never see in real life. And then of course, networking in person. That's not in social media, but using the power of your social media to leverage more connections in person. More people are comfortable giving out their Facebook or their Instagram than their phone number or their email. So you can easily say, hey, it was really nice meeting you. Do you mind if I add you on Facebook? And it's a lot easier than asking them for their phone number or their email. So in-person networking and then group networking. And don't just sell, don't just solicit, share and add value. If somebody is asking specifically for advice, and the advice happens to be something perfectly out of your book, you can say, well, in my book, I wrote blah, 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 blah. And then they'll say, oh, you wrote a book? And then they'll want more information. That is how you create organic engagement with people, real life people, and really gain momentum. And then, of course, you can post content, build out ads, target your ads. But I believe groups are a lot more organic and real, whereas ads are going to reach more people, but your conversions are going to be a lot less.
And slower, much slower. That was so good. Guys, when we began our venture with starting in-person networking groups for authors, actually that's where we saw the explosion of our participation. We started joining, engaging, and connecting to people from all across Florida and beyond who were authors, all styles of authors. And as a result, we've had people come as far as from New Jersey, even further, to attend our mixers. And we would have never met them naturally, but we were able to organically connect and build a trusted relationship to the level of them to come out and participate in our mixer. And the same could be as such for you as an author, where people will start to like you, the KLT model. People do business with people who they know, like, and trust. And it's a really nifty and genuine way to build new relationships and build rapport and get opportunities to gain and establish credibility as well as influence in the life of someone you might have never, ever met. That was so good, Jessica. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome.
Now, I'm sure everybody is like, yes and amen, Jessica, but talk to me about how much time is this going to cost me to actually get results on social media? So is there is there an average commitment a person needs to be prepared for when it comes to growing as a professional author on social media?
It really depends on what you yourself can accomplish and what you would need to outsource. If you learn to use Canva or use a design software to create graphics, if you write and create your own content, if you, use Grammarly to proofread your content, then you can do a lot on your own with very minimal financial costs. Canva has a free version. Grammarly does. You can use Google Drive, the Microsoft Office equivalent, for free. You can do all of that for free, but of course it does take a lot of time. One of the most fun, quick ways to build engagement, again, is groups. You can just spend your night on the couch when you're watching TV, you're unwinding, you're in bed, or wherever you do your scrolling, your normal scrolling. Just be, intentional about it. Instead of scrolling and just looking at videos and, liking things, go to these groups instead, scroll through the groups, and just add value. Just go in there and talk, and really just think about it as like a normal conversation that you're having with people, and don't sell. Always just add value and engage with people. You could probably spend an hour to 2 hours a night doing that and doing very little like content on your own page, and you would get a lot more engagement than if you spend 2 hours building content on your page and not engaging with anybody. So I would probably say invest 2 to 5 hours minimum on content, and then 2 to 5 hours a week minimum on building content, and then maybe 1 to 2 hours a day on engaging with people. And that will yield you really good results. But if you want to really ramp it up, it would probably be 20 to 40 hours a week minimum on creating content, creating videos, creating podcasts like you're doing, and then also spending that time later on engaging with people. And just that way, when they go to your Facebook page or your Instagram page, they see all of this amazing content. That's going to yield you the best results. And if you hire people to help you with some of that, you'll spend more money, but you'll gain back more of your time. So there is, a way to do it with a little less time investment and money investment. You're not going to get the same results, but you will get some. And then obviously with all things in business, if you invest more time and more money, you're going to get a lot more results.
And guys, I'm sure, that was really good. I want to make sure, though, I share one thing. I know for some of you who are working or in school, or you're a spouse and you have kids and other commitments, you're like, I don't have 40 hours to give to social media. That just totally discourages me. Breathe. We're talking about the absolute most, but it is important that you understand that everything comes through a process, and 2 hours is better than no hours, and building from 2 hours into whatever the number of hours it ultimately end up being that makes best sense for you to yield the types of results that you're expecting to see, or your goals desire. But please don't become overwhelmed, because you can get a lot done in 2 hours. There are social media schedulers, things where you can mass produce content and just take a little time in one day, and you have it planned for the rest of the week. There are other small things you can do that will help maximize the little time you have. If I could come from a perspective from the ground up. See, Jess is going to give it to you from that expert level, and I love her. We use her personally for a lot of things with Dream That Big Publishing, but starting from maybe minimal resources and minimal time, I would say first look at how much time you have. Do you have 3 hours to give a week? And from there, we build a plan on what you can get done in those 3 hours. It's if you can't delegate, then you can automate. There are so many ways and tools to automate your social media goals, and you can get a lot done. Yeah, that may not mean 1,000 likes or going viral, but you are building a consistent presence, and consistency apart from likes is big in the social media world. So woo, guys.
Because all it takes is that one big person that you meet somewhere to check you out and share you, and then you have all of this stuff that's already built out. It's like a big foundation. And I like to add that 2 hours a day sounds like a lot, like you were saying, but think about all the times that you sit in the car waiting to pick up your kids, all the times you're waiting for your food in the drive-thru and you're not moving, all the times you're stuck in traffic. I know it sounds like, oh, you're in your car, you're stuck, you're stopped, you're not moving. And you pull out your phone and you probably text someone, scroll, whatever. Just be intentional. Every time you pull out that phone, stop yourself and say, no, I need to engage to build my book brand, not play. I'm not here to play. This is, we need to build this brand, right? So every time you pull that phone out, when you are stuck in the car, if you're, just waiting for someone at a doctor's office, just be really intentional. Don't just waste time, play games. I'm not trying to sound bossy, but use that time instead to just engage on Facebook. You don't even have to use it to create content. You just use it to go in groups, like people's things, add stuff to the conversation instead of playing on your phone. Just be very intentional. And then I think you'll see how much you get done in those 5, 10, 15-minute increments. It'll add up to over 2 hours.
Absolutely. Such a great point. Thank you. The point is, guys, no matter where you're starting from and what you're starting with, you can see some level of success in your social media efforts as an author if you're willing to commit, become consistent, and be intentional. Wow, wow, wow. Now let's deal with the elephant in the room. Can you, as an author, actually grow your book sales using social media?
Yes, definitely. When you make real connections with real people, a few things can happen. One, curiosity. People are intrigued. They want to know who you are, what your book's about. They'll go check out your book. If it relates to them and they're interested and they're like, oh, I know this author. That's really cool. They're more likely to buy it if you're making real connections with real people. That's why I keep honing back into the groups and not just content. 2, wanting to support you. You've built value, you've added value to their life, you've helped them in some way with a piece of advice, just being a light in their life. And now they feel just like Baskin Robbins, when you take some samples, you feel an obligation to support the other person. Not everybody feels this way, but a lot of people do. And that's why the samples works. When you take a couple samples, you're like, now I have to buy the ice cream. When somebody is getting value from you, they're like, oh, now I feel like I have to support that person because they've changed my life, right? Or they made it better. So curiosity, wanting to support you, feeling kind of obligated to support you. And then also the third thing is people are going to want more. So you've built value, you've created a need where they're like, wow, you gave me such a gold nugget in that piece of advice. I want more. Well, if you want more, you got to read my book, right? So it truly, with all of these connections that you're making online, with all this content that you're putting out, you're building intrigue, you're building curiosity, you're building value, and all of that can help you build sales.
Wow, that was so much wisdom. OMG, guys, I hope you're taking notes. Now, to make sure our listeners are able to walk away with a few implementable steps, I'd like for you to share 7 steps to launching a successful social media campaign as an author.
It's funny you asked that because I'm actually going to be covering the steps in very good detail with my book that I'm working on. But the very first step with every marketing plan, online or outside, is always evaluation. And within evaluate, there's 3 steps right there. Evaluate your audience, like we were talking about before. Who are you trying to sell the book to? Who's going to receive your message the best? Who is going to gain the most value from what you are putting out there? And then who is your competition? What are they doing? What are they putting out there? What are people responding positively or negatively to? What should you avoid doing? All of this evaluation is very important. So who's your audience is number 1. Who is your competition is number 2. And then what is your industry is number 3 for your evaluation steps. And what is your industry is, okay, you're selling a book and the book is about, let's go back to Christian marital relationships. Well, the industry of marriage and the industry of counseling and relationships. You got to delve into that and see what people are doing and either stay away from copying or stay away from mistakes that you see. What are people, again, responding positively and negatively to in the marketplace, right? All of those things are really important to building the foundation of your social media so that you know what to and what not to do and who you're talking to, right? So evaluation really kind of encompasses all three of the first steps. And then after that, we have hone your message and your purpose. So now you figured out who and what, but now we have to figure out, okay, so we have the message from our book. How are we going to communicate that? How are we going to display that? What's going to really get it out there in an understandable way? Can we condense some stuff from the book? Can we, you're honing your message. What is your main overall message from your book, from your series of books, or from your speaking engagements that you really want to convey? Write those things down and make them the core of everything that you're doing on social media. You have to always go back to that message. Does it mesh with it? Does it coincide with it? Does it, conflict with that message? Is it confusing? Always having that as your foundation is really, really important. So that's number 4. Number 5 would be choose your platforms and your username. Again, namecheck.com, NAMECHK.com to check your username availability. Number 6 would be optimized page for searchability with your name, your industry type, location, and description. So on every social media platform, you're able to change the name, your industry type if possible, location, and your description. Those things will help people find you. You need to make sure that you set those up, that you write a description, you spell check that description, and it has keywords that people are kind of looking for. Like we're going back to marriage, therapy, counseling. Make sure those words are in your description somehow so that people can find you. You can use hashtags as well. And number 7, start creating graphics and written content to publish and post.
Wow. Guys, that was worth so much. It would take us an enormous amount of time to research and find that and organize it. And Jessica just gave us that in 7 steps. So my encouragement for you is make sure you wrote that down and you begin executing and implementing it in your own strategy as an author. As we prepare to end our interview today, Jessica, would you please share with us a resource or a tool for authors to keep growing in this subject?
Yeah, definitely. There are so many resources online. YouTube's a great one. Rumble, checking out blogs. But the biggest resource, I think, is to view what your aspiration, the people that you aspire to be like, or to, to surpass their success. Look at what they're doing. And then also look at what the people who you want to avoid being like doing, like the people who are under the microscope, they're not doing very well, their books aren't selling. What are they doing in contrast to what the people that you aspire to are doing? Like, look at like the number 1 authors and the type of book that you're writing and why are they successful? The people who are succeeding and the people who are failing are your number 1 resource. You can look at them and you can say, okay, this is what they're doing. They're using, they're posting every day. They're doing consistency with the cosmetics of their graphics across all their graphics. They have something consistent. They're using hashtags. These are the hashtags that they're using. This hashtag doesn't seem to be getting any likes. You just take notes and really look at what they're doing. Then there's, of course, gurus and things like that online. But I would be very careful to take advice from people who do not have success. Gurus will claim and tell you this is what you should do, yada, yada, yada. But seeing actual success from people who are currently succeeding is going to be your number 1 resource because the proof is in the pudding.
Oh, guys, I can't even add anything to that. That was so profoundly spoken. I'm going to encourage every listener to implement, to execute, and I believe together using Jessica's principles, we will prosper in the social media market. Until next time, guys.
Thank you.